good.
Welcome back to the Grow Like a Mother podcast. I'm your host, Jill, and I have Shayna here with me today. Shayna is a somatic practitioner, and she's an embodiment mentor who works with clients to unpack and reprogram their subconscious minds. Basically, what that means is she dives deep into the wisdom of their bodies through the somatic practices and to the nervous system to do healing and then move them from stuck and disconnected to living a fulfilled and abundant life, which we are all wanting so badly. Welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much. Great intro. Like, I feel like I don't have a whole lot more to add. You kind of covered all the bases there. So thank you.
Um,
I'm excited to be here.
yeah, I'm really excited to have you. I know that most of the listeners will be familiar with somatic work, but I wonder if you can just give us like the Cole's notes in your words of what exactly is this like mind-body connection? Why does it work? And maybe why you were drawn to this type of work.
Yeah, so I guess the only thing that's left out in like who I am is that I'm a nurse. I'm a family practice nurse. That's like my real job. And I found this huge gap between like how we're creating healing, working in Western medicine, and then having the modalities of Eastern medicine. So I'm also a yoga studio owner. I've been teaching yoga for 10 plus years. So I thought, okay, there's got to be a way to marry and blend the two and create this more harmonious relationship in our body. And that's what kind of drove me to somatic work, because somatic work is really the basis of a lot of the things we do. And it's been kind of been in the last, I don't know, couple of years, this hype word that it's like, ooh, you get the Instagram ads that are like, oh, I did this somatic movement practice for 5 days and I lost 20 pounds. And now my husband looks at me a different way, like all that noisy stuff. So I wanted to bring like the real true lens back to somatics and what somatic practices are through this nervous system regulation, through subconscious reprogramming. So Cole's notes of what somatics are and how I use them is somatics is the felt-based language of the nervous system. So when we're thinking about healing our nervous system doesn't speak a language of like, okay, I'm anxious, well, just feel better. Like, what are you anxious for? Like, you're fine, just breathe, you're fine. Your nervous system speaks a language of touch, of feel, of show me that I'm safe, show me that everything is okay. So somatic practices are this idea of really getting in touch about with how things land in my physical body and then being able to move through those cues that you're being given organically, but we've through conditioning stuffed down and told, it's woo woo or it's crazy or what do you mean your nervous system speaks a language and stuff like that. So that's kind of the basis of where the modalities that I teach and kind of this coaching business that I have was born from, is being able to heal and move in a different way that's like holistic and it's whole body approach, right? It's not just this surface level, do this for 21 days and you'll be better, or you'll be cured or whatever, because we get enough of that through everything we're exposed to. And if we can just digest it a little bit, get to more like root issues, yeah, there's so much more out there for us if we can just open up to it, right? Open up to these new ways and these new ideas. So that's kind of like a side tangent rant of bigger answer than what you maybe asked for, but
No, that is
yeah,
fantastic. And it's like these old new ideas because they're not new,
yeah,
right? They're ancient.
absolutely. Yes,
And
100%.
as much as they're tied into with the physical body and landing
Yes,
things in the body and understanding that language, it also, for the sciencey minds who are listening, it also really connects with like neuroscience as well and how the neuroplasticity in your brain works and the different conditioning, and you
yes,
can break that, right? For the
yeah,
example, I just want to throw a couple quick examples of how I use this in my everyday, because this might sound like something that's, you need to really study and learn. And yes, you need to get the basics and to understand. But once you do, it's something you use in your everyday life. Yesterday, I was all triggered because my daughter wouldn't stop talking and my son was in the background trying to play. And I just sat there and I did like the butterfly where I can tap my
yes,
collarbones, right, for like a minute. And I was
yes,
like, okay. And I have a
yeah,
coach who does hypnotherapy with me, and she's like, if
yeah,
you're in your head about something and you have like a negative thought or a story, she's like, just like pass an object. between your hands back and
Hmm.
forth. And that
Yeah.
literally changes your brain. And so it's these small things that we can incorporate into our life to help us deal with the like the discomfort or the dysregulation in a way
Yeah.
that like nobody would need to know. It's
Right.
not weird. Like we can all just bring
Yes.
it in every day.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up your daughter, even though, you're not working with her one-on-one, but it's that co-regulation. We could do a whole podcast on co-regulation between, our behaviors and our ability to regulate ourselves and our nervous system and the effects that it gives out to others, especially our kids. Like if we're speaking to moms here, right? And if when we're feeling so disconnected and dysregulated and like feeling like exhausted and we just don't know, we feel so stuck, that energy is transferring to our kids. And then that, not that we're casting blame or we're making it, oh my gosh, one more thing that I'm doing to my kids, I'm failing at this whole parenthood thing. And oh my God, but just that whole sense that if you can do the work to heal yourself, even that simple butterfly, like the awareness to be able to be like, okay, I'm feeling triggered, I'm feeling a bit dysregulated, find that technique, which for you, it was that butterfly tap, bring yourself down. That interaction then after that you have with your daughter is the co-regulation, right? So now you've regulated yourself. She's going to pick up on that because if she's, I don't know how old she is, but if she's under 6 or 7, 5, right? So then she doesn't have the ability to regulate on her own. She just doesn't. They just don't. They're so smart in so many other ways, but they don't have the ability to regulate on their own. So if you can create the regulation in yourself, her nervous system will pick up on your regulation. Your nervous systems are in conversation with everybody all the time, but especially kids. And then she's going to co-regulate because you've taken the time, taken the energy, taken the effort to regulate yourself, and she's going to feel the effects of it. So what a beautiful gift. It becomes this full circle gift, right? And then it's the same with like your partner. It bounces off to them, and then it bounces off to the people that you share space with, whether it's in the office, whether it's in business relationships. It's just, yeah, this beautiful harmonious thing that we can create just by like slowing down. And like you said, not doing anything new or fancy. Somatics isn't new. This isn't like some westernized thing that just popped up in the last year. It's been around forever. We just have to like weed through all the noise, slow down, and really start listening. And listening to ourselves is actually where the magic happens. But again, whole nother episode.
I know. I feel like I could have you on to talk about all the things. Like
Right?
just a full year of Shayna and
Yeah,
Jill.
yeah.
Um, but it's interesting. I remember when I first had like my first kid was going through the terrible twos, and he's autistic, but I didn't know it at the time. And there was a lot of
Mhm.
dysregulation. And so I found this meme somewhere that was like, or not a meme, but like something on the internet that said, be the calm in the room,
Mhm.
with this idea of like co-regulating and like you need to be
Yeah,
centered. And I was like, I have no idea how to stay
right.
calm. And then I had to go through this journey because it all weaves. I had to go through this journey of like, okay, well, what is the trigger? Why is that a trigger
Right.
for me? And then
Yeah.
understanding. And so when you get interested in these types of things, that's why it's called the work, right? Like you have
Yeah.
to unravel, but
Yeah.
it's such a gift for the kids. It really
It
is.
is. Yeah. And sometimes it feels like, oh, why am I always the one doing all the work to heal?
Yeah.
Like doing all the work all the time. But it honestly is the best gift you can give to yourself and the best gift then that just bounces out to everybody around you. So it's worth it. It's
I
worth
want
the
to
work.
I want to get your perspective on this word heal too, because it's
Mhm.
something that I didn't understand before I got into the work. I didn't
Yeah.
understand what I needed to heal from because healing to me was something physical. Like I had a cut
Right.
which needed to heal. And so I couldn't quite wrap my mind around this idea that we all had inner stuff to heal. Is there a way that you describe that to people that if someone's listening and they're in my shoes like 5 years ago and they just don't really understand, can you give us some context about that?
Yeah. So it kind of leads into what had planned to talk about today. You're born this like innate little vessel. So this perfect, beautiful little vessel. Let's say like a vase or vase, depends on what part of the world you're in, whether you call it vase or vase. I think I call it a vase. So we'll call it a vase. You're born this beautiful vase. And over time, whether it's through experiences, just to say on the play yard. So maybe you were called weird for picking rocks. That experience lands in your subconscious mind, and then it becomes a part of you, whether you recognize in that moment or not, it does. And that is actually going to add a little crack or a chip to your vase. It could be something as simple as when you're a tiny little baby, if you had maybe not the best relationship with mom, or mom maybe had postpartum, or there was some sort of disruption at birth for you, or in those very early years, those are going to create little tiny cracks in your vase. So you've got this beautiful vessel that stays beautiful. We're not taking away from the beauty of the vessel, but every little experience is going to chip away at that vase. So eventually there's going to be a time, in a perfect world, we could bring awareness to this to people when they're in like their 20s and stuff, but not many 20-year-olds are ready for this. I certainly wasn't at 20. But you know, when you get a little bit older, 30s, 40s, 50s, sometimes it's people in their 60s and 70s, they realize like, geez, I'm not feeling like myself anymore, or this version of me that I'm living right now isn't necessarily what I thought my life would look like. And when we peel back, when we start to realize that all those little experiences, whether they're teeny tiny or, you know, heaven forbid, a little bit more traumatic, they're creating cracks in our beautiful vase that is us. It requires us to start to rebuild, to seal up the plugs in the, or the cracks in that vase, so that we can become ourselves again, or whole again, or the version of us that we want to be. So that's where the word heal comes in. And I think heal could be interchangeable with like new version of us. I hate to say new because there's nothing wrong with the version that we are. I think heal is actually the better word, but it's just creating this healing around our heart, our body, our mind, our soul. See, healing is the physical, right? Like, you know, you fracture a bone, you need to physically heal it. Your example, you have a cut, you put a Band-Aid on it to heal it. But there's the same things happen to our inside, our vessel, our vase, that require healing. They require work. They require new ways, effort, new ways of thinking, being, these practices to come in and like seal up the cracks, or just create some harmony back in the body, so that we don't have this disconnect. We don't have this feeling of like lost and unknowing who we are anymore. And this just feeling of blah, you know, again, this is why it would be so nice if we could start this process when we're younger. And we can, it just starts with the awareness. Like, we get these notions all the time in our 20s and our teens, where we're like, oh, that doesn't land good in my body, but I don't know how to understand and I don't know how to articulate it. But if we could create a generation that's just a little bit more in tune, just a little bit more in tune, like, hey, I'm sitting here in this chair. How do I feel in my physical body? For instance, like, how's my physical body feeling? Are my shoulders tight? Is my neck tight? Do I feel any tension through my face? Or am I feeling pretty good? And then we can take it to the next level. How am I feeling in my energetic body? Not everybody resonates with energy. So how am I feeling in my emotional body? Am I feeling light and airy, like I have the capacity to bring in new things? Or am I feeling like guarded, stuck, and feeling like I have no room for anything else, right? So it just starts with this tiny bit of awareness, and it can be done at any age. It's just we need to be open, and we need to be, yeah, open to other ideas and other ways of moving through life.
Yeah. And I love that there are people like you out here doing this work and raising this awareness almost in a way that just feels like as an offering. Like there is some
Yeah.
information. It's not
Mm-hmm.
pushy. It's not like, oh,
No.
come in, like, quote, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see me air quoting, like, convert
Yeah.
to this somatic journey, whatever.
Yeah.
It's like, here are some tools that are available to you.
Yeah.
And if
Yeah.
we learn them, we can not only offer them to our loved ones, but it's such a gift to be able to offer them to ourselves and bring that
Yeah.
intention into our lives.
And really knowing that there's no one way to heal, right? There's no checklist. Every morning you do X, Y, Z, and you're going to heal yourself, or you're going to be better, or you're going to unpack all your childhood wounds and whatever, right? Like there's no one way, there's no right way, there's no perfect way. So my advice with this idea of healing, that if people are like, okay, yeah, maybe I could do this. This is something that I'm interested in. Like nix the checklist, nix the list of things to do, and just start to be aware of how you feel, and then start to respond to it. So stop like, oh, I feel overwhelmed. Oh, you're fine. Like just push through. Like you'll be good. Or I'm feeling like not myself. Even if you can't put a label on it, speak it out loud
Mhm.
somebody. And the more you can speak it out loud and get comfortable with verbalizing how you're actually feeling, things will come for you. Like we just need to get comfortable in our own bodies again.
It takes a lot of courage
Yeah.
to do this, to get comfortable even identifying
Yeah.
for yourself, but then speaking it, especially with people who have been in your life for a while. I'll just give you a bit of a
Yes.
backstory. I was married for 10 years-ish and was starting this journey at the end of that marriage. But it wasn't something we discussed between us. I wasn't very good about speaking my needs. And now I'm in a new relationship, and I decided right from the beginning that I was going to be very open. And even just the
Hmm.
other night, it's hilarious because different people, and I'm showing up in different ways, but we were lying in bed, and our elbows were kind of like knocking. We were facing each other, elbows were knocking, and I was just like, I feel like you're in my space, and I would like you to like move your elbow. And right now, my elbow is more important than your elbow. And he was kind of like, as if. But to
Right.
be able to even just identify things like
Yes.
that,
Yeah.
it can feel scary if you don't have a receptive loved one that is,
Yeah.
used to hearing you voice that, but that's a tangent. Um,
Yeah. And I think you bring up a huge point here is we're often, once we get in this little bit of a healing journey, we often hit a part of our journey where we're like, ooh, I'm starting to maybe outgrow my partner that I've been married to for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Or, ooh, like my partner's starting to resist back a little bit because I'm finally speaking like, ooh, your elbow's touching my elbow and that doesn't feel good for my elbow. So like back up, right?
Great.
But can you imagine your 20-year-old self would have never said that out of fear of like, oh, I don't want to upset anybody. I don't want to, like, I've got to protect everybody's, emotions and feelings and everything, right? So I think it's I think it's a huge part of it is we're able to, when you start to do the healing work, things start to really change for you. And then you start to look around and think, oh, these other people that I've shared so much time and space with, are they growing with me or are they holding me back? And that's when you have to get really honest, both with yourself and the person on the other side of it, and say, like, look, I'm doing all of this work and I'm feeling this way. Are you ready to grow with me? 9 times out of 10, they are, but not always. And that's a whole nother thing. But we often resist pushing ourselves just a little bit further in our journey and towards healing and stuff because we're scared of outgrowing people. And what if even childhood friends, like if I do all this work to heal and I no longer do X, Y, and Z, what if my friend from college doesn't want to hang out with me anymore? What if we don't have anything in common anymore? Like those are become huge barriers for people. So I think just being able to normalize having the conversations about it, and yeah, getting the support when you need it, and knowing that it's okay. It's okay to change. It's okay to grow. It's okay to evolve, to heal. It's okay to heal. Yeah.
it's kind of the whole point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I've taken us so far off topic on what we were going to talk about. So there's no easy way for me to segue into this. So I'm just going to say, like,
Yeah.
let's take a time out because I
Yeah.
really want to hear your perspective on energy leaks, right?
Yeah.
We've done all of this conversation, this
Yeah.
like leading up. So you can, the listeners got an idea of like the basis of where we're coming from in this conversation. But
Yeah.
when we were originally talking about what we were going to do on this episode, um, I was very intrigued by the top 3 reasons we're exhausted and why they might not be what we think they are. So
Yeah.
over to you. I'd love to hear more about this energy leak situation.
Yeah. So when we think about the energy leaks, we just go back to that beautiful vessel, right? So we are born this beautiful vessel, no cracks or anything, feeling really good. And then we have these things that happen throughout our lives that just kind of eat away or create cracks. And I think just to back up a little bit, if you're new to energy, which I think your listeners aren't really, right? You talk about energy a little bit.
Yeah.
But to talk about energetic leaks and exhaustion and where the energy leaks are actually coming from, we have to have this awareness of energy. So energy in general, we're energetic beings, right? Like everybody is energy. I'm energy, your listeners are energy, we're all energy. And from there, our energy affects people and people affect our energy. I think we can all bring to mind the person that we're like, oh yeah, I can feel their energy, their presence in the room, right? And then the other people, you're like, oh my gosh, like you just need you need a hug of something and pull that energy up and pull that energy out. And to keep it like really simple and really basic, we'll say there's 2 types of energy. So there's this energy of possibility and abundance where we feel open, we feel expansive, we feel like when we're in this energy, we don't need external validation. We're just able to like follow our gut, listen to our intuition, believe in ourselves, believe in our worth. We're feeling good, right? It's this energy of possibility. And then this other energy would be your fear-based energy. So when you're stuck in a fear-based energy or even in an energy of fear-based, it's this energy where we're like constantly needing reassurance, constantly seeking validation, feeling that disconnect. We are constantly looking outside of ourselves for validation, for people to tell us you're doing a good job, you're doing okay. Which ultimately, when we're in this fear-based energy, we're giving our energy away. So we're giving all of our power, all of our energy to the people that we're seeking validation from. So when we notice, the biggest thing is when we notice when we're in this fear-based energy, the awareness key. If you've ever listened to my podcast or anything I do, it's always around awareness, always circles back to awareness. So being able to identify, oh, like I'm in this fear-based energy, and then being able to move yourself out of it. So we want to bring ourselves out of it as soon as we can identify it, ideally. So that brings us to this energetic leaks. And cleaning up these energetic leaks when we think about that vase with all the cracks is really important to recognize, because we need to begin to heal the leaks. We need to begin to stop or patch up the leaks. And that happens when we gain our power back. So healing these energetic leaks, healing these cracks comes from bringing our power back into ourselves. So moving back into that energy of possibility where we're abundant and we're joyous and we're safe and secure within ourselves without needing the external validation from other people. So when we tie that into exhaustion, we're no longer giving our power away through things, people, habits, behaviors, patternings that we have that ultimately make us feel like crap, thus exhausted, right? Like if we're constantly giving our power away to all the other things, then we're going to feel like there's nothing left for us. Probably a relationship, a job, a career, whatever, where we're like, end of day, and you're like, oh my God, I have nothing left for me. And that's because you've literally sucked all the energy out of your body. That beautiful vessel has leaked it all out. So what do we do? How do we like seal that up? It starts by asking yourself. So this is something your listeners can do. Maybe jot it on down. Asking yourself, where am I leaking my energy? What things do I do every single day that leak my energy? So think of things that you do on autopilot that you don't love. And I'm not saying, I mean, we're ending the school year, but there are things like we have to make lunches. Is that a huge energetic suck for me? It is. I'm going to admit it. Making lunches, not my favorite thing to do. So those are responsibilities. We have to do them. But I have to make the lunch. Okay, what am I going to fill in that energetic crack with? So leaking my energy to doing something that makes me feel not super great. Making lunches is maybe not the best example, but anyways, Then I'm going to fill it in with something that makes me feel good. So the kids are off to school. Maybe I'm starting my work day. I'm going to sit with my coffee for 3 or 5 minutes, and I'm going to sip it and I'm going to enjoy it. And I'm going to be so incredibly present with it. That's enough to seal up that energetic crack, right? Like I've had the little leak because I've done something that makes me feel like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait till July. Now I've sealed it up, right? By doing something that fills me up again. The next thing we need to do is asking ourselves, where am I energetically leaking my power? So, what in my day, in my week, in my routine, do I feel like I'm giving all my power away? Maybe it's a job and you have a coworker that just is really challenging. We, again, could probably bring to mind somebody in our past or even hopefully not our present, but that just drains our energy. Is there a way to kind of rein that back in and stop leaking our energetic power over to them? So maybe it's setting a boundary. Not an easy thing to do if you're new to boundary setting. You often need just a little bit of support and guidance around it, but it can be done, right? So maybe you decide, I've recognized, I've brought awareness to the fact that this person, this interaction that I have on a daily or even once a week when I have to go into the office is energetically leaking my power and creating a bigger and bigger and bigger crack in my beautiful base. So now it's time to seal it up. So set a boundary. So it's identifying and then creating a response that's going to help seal it back up. And then the other question is to ask ourselves is, where am I energetically leaking my self-worth? Right? Like, and this happens when we transition from roles in our life. So there's a time where we weren't a mom and now we're a mom. Where am I giving away all my self-worth? Do I have anything outside of the home, outside of my role as mom, that draws me back to who I am, Shayna, at the core of my being, that loves life? What do I love to do outside of my kids? Not that there's anything wrong with our kids and our family life, and it's beautiful, of course, but we don't want to be 60 years old with our kids off doing their own lives and stuck thinking, well, who am I now? Right? Like I've completely lost myself. I'm so disconnected from myself. We need to be able to draw ourselves back now when we're in it. And it's like, oh my God, one more task, one more thing to do, but be able to draw ourselves back to now when we're in it and identify, where am I leaking my self-worth? Where am I not showing up for myself authentically and organically? What am I hiding behind? What am I pushing off saying, one day I'll get back to do that? So if you think of all these things, so where your energetic leaks throughout your day, where are you energetically leaking your power, where are you energetically leaking your self-worth, that's where your exhaustion comes from. So you're not tired because you didn't drink enough coffee. You're not tired because you didn't eat enough green food. You're not tired because you didn't take your vitamin D supplement. Those things are all great and they all serve a purpose, but you're exhausted and disconnected from who you are because you're leaking all your energy day in and day out through these cracks that have been created in that beautiful vessel that is you. So now it's our job to bring awareness to it and decide, what can I do right now in this moment? What can I do today that's going to help kind of seal that back up, bring it back to who I am organically, who I am at the core of my being? That's for a whole nother podcast, who I am at the core of my being, but like just get back to feeling like me again and not so drained and not so exhausted and disconnected because I feel like me. Like I feel like, oh, okay, even though I'm a mom, even though I've got 3 kids that I'm running around, even though that I've got this career, even though that I'm trying to run this side business and all this stuff, I still feel like me because I've brought awareness to the fact that I'm feeling disconnected. This is where I'm leaking my power and I'm giving it back to myself. No longer giving that stuff away. It's way too valuable to just be tossing around.
What a lesson. I mean, the fact that
what a rant.
well, it's fantastic because I mean, if listeners can get one thing out of this whole conversation today, I want them to hear this. The reason you're exhausted is not physical, it's energetic.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Absolutely.
Just thinking about it in a different way
Hmm.
is going to open up a whole new world of possibilities for you. And I heard you mention your podcast, and I would love to know more about that because I haven't listened to it, but I will become a listener because I love the way
Yeah.
that you describe things. Can you share with us about your podcast and where we can find you on social and how people can continue to learn?
Yeah, so my podcast is called the Unlearning Podcast because we talk about unlearning really all the societal pressures and the norms. We talk a lot about energetics, we talk about the nervous system, we talk about all the stuff. And they're really simple, basic tips in there. Like all podcasts are free resources for some of the best stuff. So I do offer like coaching and programs and stuff, but if you're new to this stuff, just start sourcing out those free resources within podcasts. So my podcast is the Unlearning Podcast. You can find me on Instagram. I am Shayna Naus. I can share the spelling with you, not super, of course, easy. But yeah, the only other thing I would say about energetics and staying in the energy that you want to be in is allow yourself to be supported. Allow yourself to be supported by podcasts like this, by, the social media accounts that make you feel really good, because there's too many energy sucks out there, right? There's too many things that we do all day, every day. And then we finally get a moment and we doom scroll, right? Like we've all done it. And then we just start like feeling crummier about ourselves. Allow yourself to be supported by the people that make you feel really good, by showing up here again, listening to podcasts like this or other places that really support your growth in where you are, like meeting you right here and right now. Because the next level you that you desire to be, that energetically aligned version of you, is in the energy of where you're going, not where you've been. So like, let's disconnect from all this like pull back energy and start to move forward with things. Allow yourself to be supported. Allow yourself to start to look forward to what's ahead rather than being drawn back all the time.
Such wise words. I am all for that. There are so many free resources, so many people talking about this now that
Yeah,
if it's calling you, and I just can feel that this is resonating really well with somebody who's listening. So
yeah,
if that's you, get on it. Keep like
yeah,
venture into this world and follow Shayna and keep listening. Check out her podcast, stay here and
yeah,
find people that you resonate with to learn from.
yeah. This stuff is gold. It's so good.
Right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here with me today.
Yeah, thank you. I'm so excited that our paths crossed and we met. And yeah,
Me
it's
too.
beautiful. Thank you.